Hello everyone, welcome back to another Bold BA webinar. In this webinar, we are going to look into the new and exciting features that comes along with Bold BA version 3.3. Bold BA version 3.3 comes with a lot of new features, changes and improvements in both the cloud and embedded BA editions. You could take a look into those changes in our release history page, as you can see here. So all the changes, improvements, and even the bug fixes that have been done is listed out in the release history page. For this webinar, I have picked the most important ones that could benefit the dashboard creators in different ways due to the limitations of this, due to the time restrictions of the webinar. So I have picked only the most important ones that I would like to demonstrate. And so out of the all the features that has been done in the version 3.3, the first one that you see here, that is the publish module, isolation code and custom attributes are specific to the Bold BA Enterprise Edition, and it is not available for the Cloud Edition yet. And it is one of the most important features that could help the enterprise users to build dashboards and serve multiple tenants easily without much pain. So and the other three features that I have listed down, that is the improvement in user experience, support for widget containers, and combined data sources is available for both the cloud and the embedded BA editions. So all the users, all the both BA users could benefit from these three improvements that has been done. And in addition to all these, we have also brought the support for data alerts or data notifications. If you have been an user of Classic Syncfusion dashboard platform, so data alerts is one of the important features that we already had. It allows you to create schedules and alert users when a data reaches a particular threshold. And this feature is now brought back to Bold BI with version Bold BI version 3.3. So now let's go ahead and let's look into in depth about each of these changes that has been available. So first one is the publish module. So so the publish module is basically implemented for enterprise customers to serve their multiple tenants and users without having the pain to recreate every dashboards that has the same data. And basically, if they are the same template, the users can just publish the dashboards from one of their tenants to the other tenants easily without having to spend much time. And you also have the ability to synchronize these dashboards from the master tenant to the other user tenants easily. And in addition to that, you could also use the publish module in combination with the isolation code in case if your data is such that you are serving multiple users and their data is in the same database with isolation codes. You could just add a user isolation code for every tenant such that the same dashboard that you have created will serve all those users with the data being isolated for them in each and every tenant. Let's see a demo for this. I'll go back to the application. So I have the embedded edition installed in my machine that you see here. So I have different tenants. So if you are the user of embedded edition of Bold BI, you have already known it has the capability to create multiple tenants within the same installation. So instead of having the same tenant for every user, you could create different tenants by just creating a new site using the create new site option that you see here. And you could just have the dashboards for each of your clients in different tenants and allow them to log in and view the dashboards. So now let's see what the publish module is and how it could be helpful for you in building dashboards for your users. So you could see I have a master tenant that is where I'm going to build dashboards for all of my customers. And then once the dashboard is built, I could share or publish the same dashboard with all of my tenants like a template so that when they log in, they could just see the dashboard with their own data isolated for them without having to create the dashboards in their tenants each time. So now let's go ahead and I would open the master tenant, for example. So in my master tenant, I already have built some dashboards that's available under the sales category that you see here. So what I'm going to do is I have already built the dashboard templates for all of my clients. So what I'm going to do is if I want to publish a specific dashboard to one of the tenants, I could just go and click on the menu option that you see on the right hand side of every dashboard. So and select the publish option. So when publishing, you have two options. Either you could publish it to the internal site. Internal site refers to the tenant that is available within the same installation, within the same server. And the external site could be a server that is installed in your client machine, and you could even publish the dashboard that is installed in your client machine. So let's see the internal site first. So you would just click the next button, and you could select the other tenants that is listed down here. So for example, let me select site 4, and you could provide a category name in which this dashboard has to be published. So I would name them as published dashboards, and this is the original name of your dashboard with the unique ID. And when publishing, you could also make sure that the users in the tenant doesn't make any change to that dashboard by just locking the dashboard editing capabilities and the data source editing permission. So now when you click on the submit button, the dashboards will be published to that particular tenant. So let's go ahead and click the submit button. So now the dashboard is successfully published. Let's go to the site 4 and open this tenant. So now you could see there is a new category, published dashboard, and the dashboard that's been published now is available here. So this is publishing to an internal site. So if you want to publish a dashboard to an external site that is installed in a different server, say in your client machine or so, you just click on the publish option, select external site, and click next. So you may need to add an external site to this. To add an external site, you need to provide a name. Your name could be anything, and you need to add the site URL and the client ID and client secret. So the client ID and client secret will be available in the site settings. So let's go back to the manage sites option. And so this page is only available for the administrator. So other users cannot access this page. So let's go to one of the sites, say site 4, and let me click on the site 4. So you'll have the general here. In the general tab, you'll be able to see the client ID and client secret. So when you publish this dashboard to an external server, so you just need to enter the client ID and client secret, provide the URL of the server, and provide a name. So then you'll be able to add an external site, and very similar to how you publish to an internal site, you could lock the editing capabilities and uh, publish the dashboard to that site. Okay. And what about publishing when deploying new tenants? So for example, you may have a set of 10 or 15 template dashboards that you would publish to each of your new tenants or new customers when they sign up. And publishing each and every dashboard one by one could be a painful operation. And instead of doing that, you could automate the process and publish all those template dashboards whenever a new tenant is created or a new customer signs up. Okay, so let's see how it can be done. So to do that, in your master tenant, you just need to go to the publish module that you see on the left side. So this publish module will be available only for the master tenants. For the other tenants, uh, it will not be available. So here you'll have all those operations for synchronizing and everything. And you could also see the status of the publishing process that has been done. Okay, so now we go to the settings, and in the dashboard, you'll see a tab in the dashboard settings. You'll see a tab as deployment dashboard. So this is the deployment dashboards tab. So you could just add multiple dashboards here as template dashboards, whatever you have on your site. And so when you add these deployment dashboards here, whenever a new tenant is created in your server, these template dashboards will be published onto that new tenant without you have to manually publishing. You have to publish those manually. So let's see how it is done. I already have two dashboards that is already added as deployment dashboards in my master tenant. So let's go back to the sites, site settings, and create a new site. I'll click the create site option, and let me provide the site name as site 6 and even the site identifier as site 6. So now click next. So I need to set up the metadata database. So I'll use the local SQL server that I have with Windows authentication and create a new database for storing the metadata. So now let's click on next. I may need to choose an administrator. So choose one and click create and launch site. So now the new site is being launched, which is going to be a new instance of the server itself with a different metadata base for all the users and for the dashboard. So now the new tenant is being created. So it may take a few seconds for the deployment to take place. And now we could see under the dashboards category, these two deployment dashboards are successfully published. So that's how you publish the template dashboards when new tenants are created. So this is the publish feature that we publish module feature that we have introduced, and publish module in combination with isolation code would be very much helpful. Of course, because you're not going to publish the same dashboard with the same data to everyone. Data is going to be different. But imagine the case when you have the same database for every customers, but you have isolation code for them, so that when you publish the dashboard to different tenants, that isolation code can help you in differentiating every customer's data, and in the dashboard you'll view only the data that is meant for every customer instead of displaying the entire data. So let's see this how this isolation code can be put together with the publish module in the next feature that I'm about to show. So that is the isolation code and custom attribute. So the isolation code basically helps you to filter data on a row level for every tenant. It assures a fine-grained security for every user in the tenant and between tenants. And it could also reduce deployment time because you could basically use the same dashboard for everyone without having to create it from scratch. And regarding custom attributes is a different one compared to isolation code. Custom attribute is nothing but a piece of SQL code that you could use it as a parameter, and you could optionally use it in any of your data sources to isolate the data between users, groups, and even for tenants. I'll show you a demo for both these so that it could be much clearer when demonstrated. So let's go back to the application. And so the isolation, as said before, isolation code can be set for every tenant that you have in your enterprise application or embedded application. So you have, let's go back to the site management settings. So I'll go to the manage sites. So I have different sites here. So imagine I have the same database for each of my tenants or customers, uh, but they have an isolation code separated by an isolation code. So what I can do is I could go and select a site, for example. Let's select a master site, and in the isolation code, I could set something like this, say a column name and equal to value. So now when any data source that is created in this particular tenant has a column as country, the value will be filtered only for Argentina, and no other data will be shown in the dashboard. So again, this settings is only available for the administrator. So once the administrator enables the isolation code and sets the isolation code and value, it will be restricted for every user in the application, and they'll not be able to view the other values in that particular column. Okay. So now let's go back to that particular site. So this is that master site that I have, and let's see how that isolation code works. So I'm going to create a dashboard from scratch. So I'll just click the add button and select start from scratch. Let me name it as isolation code and create a dashboard with that name. So to demonstrate this, I'm going to use, let's use one of the sample data sources that comes along with the installation. So you go to data sources tab on the right side and select explore samples. So let's choose a data source that contains a country column. So we have one Northwind data source, Northwind traders and sales. So I can just double click it to add it to the dashboard. It's being added now. And you could just expand this to see the schema, and you could see a country column here, right? So as the Northwind data source, sample data source contains a lot of different country values in this column. So, but we have already set the isolation code as Argentina. So now let's see how the isolation code works. So you just drag a chart, any chart, and configure it with the country and the numeric value. So let's go to the Assign Data tab, drag and drop the country column to the columns and order quantity to the value. So now as you see, even though the data source has multiple values, for this particular tenant, the Argentina is particularly filtered, and any widgets or KPIs that you build will be filtered only for this value, for this country value, and the data for Argentina will only be shown in the dashboard for this particular data or any other data source that contains a country code. So this is how the isolation code works. You could set isolation code for every sites here that you see. And let's now go and look into the custom attributes feature. So custom attributes feature is slightly different from uh, the isolation code. So in one of my tenants, I have configured with the attributes. So isolation code is not set here. So the attributes is just set with the piece of SQL code that you see here. So to create an attribute, you just need to click the add attribute button, provide a name for your attribute, and enter the snippet that you want to add, and provide a description if required. So if you encrypt this attribute, it will be stored in the form of, it will be encrypted and stored in the database. So, and you could also save this. And once it is saved, you could see the attribute added here. You could add multiple attributes. And the main difference between an isolation code and custom attribute is, so irrespective of the data source, isolation code will be applied for every data source that you have in the tenant if it has a particular column. But attribute can be optionally used or can be optionally used in your SQL query wherever you want to apply this attribute. So let me show you an example. In the same tenant, I have a Northwind data source that you see here. So I have added a custom SQL query, and at the end, I have added a var class with this custom attribute. So the syntax for adding the custom attribute is like this: a dollar symbol, uh, curly braces followed by the attribute name. And once you apply this attribute, and if you run this, now the country value will be filtered only for France and uh, Argentina, I guess. Yes, Argentina and France, and it will be shown only. It will be displaying only those values uh, in the dashboard. Okay. So as you see here. So another important difference between the isolation code and attribute is Isolation code is basically added only for on a tenant level. However, attribute can be applied for tenant, user, or even user groups. So right now we have in this sample we have applied the attribute for this tenant on a tenant level. So I could also show you how to apply this for on a user level and group level. So you just need to go on to the users module. Again, this is accessible only for the administrator, and for every user, you could just select the user. You'll be having an attributes tab that you see, and you could add a new attribute for this particular user. So since we have added on a tenant level, this is by default added to every user. So, but if you don't want to add the attribute on a tenant level, and if you want to add a different attribute for every user or even user group, you could add that. And typically, you are going to use a single data source and a single dashboard where for every user, when they log in, this particular attribute will be applied, and the dashboard will be customized for them in the dashboard based on the attribute set. So that's how you work with attributes, and that is the difference between the isolation code and an attribute. So let's move on to the other features now. We have so whatever features that we are going to see from here onwards is going to be available for the cloud as well as for the embedded edition. And the foremost important feature or improvement that we have done is the user experience. First one is we have improved the design canvas now. So for the granularity over the widget size. So if you have been an user of BoldBA version 3.2 or earlier, you'll have noticed that the cell sizes in the design canvas would be much larger, so that the users are limited to add only a fixed set of widgets or a limited set of widgets in the dashboards. And even for having dashboard widgets with small sizes, it was even difficult. And so now we have what we have done is we have uh, split the cells into multiple tiny cells, so that along with the backward compatibility, so that this dashboard or the design canvas now offers much more granularity over the previous canvas. Um, you could also even add multiple cells in terms of rows at the bottom if you want a scrollable dashboard. So this is one of the major improvements that we have done. And we have also added font weights based upon the text that is available. And these font sizes are scaled based on the resolution. So previously we had an absolute font size for every dashboard element, say widget title, dashboard title, access labels, value labels, and everything. So right now we have made them relative, added weightage to everything, and also they are responsive based on the client resolution. And we have also added value-based color support now. So previously, when you configure a chart with a series, uh, the colors will be applied randomly from the palette, from the default color palette. But you have the option to set the value-based colors on your own. But now we have changed this uh, completely into an automated value-based font color system, so that whenever you configure anything, the color is going to be uh, uniform throughout the dashboard to differentiate between the values. So it could be either for the measure or the values in a dimension. So let me show you an example. So this is a chart, a column chart that I have created to show the top 5 countries based on order quantity. So this color, since this is a single series, it is added with a single color, and it is chosen from the color palette that we have. So now whenever I use the order quantity in any part of my dashboard, it's going to use the same color that you see here in this chart. So for example, let me go and add another chart, say a line or spline chart. And in this spline chart, I'm going to use the same measure but a different dimension. So let's choose a continuous value like an order date, and then add the order quantity to the value. So the chart is plotted. As you see, the same color is being used for order quantity. But if I remove this and add a different value, say units in stock or order total, is going to give you a different color. And again, this order total, wherever you use this value order total, is going to give you the same color throughout the dashboard. So this is one. And let's see an example for the dimension. So for this column chart, let's go ahead and apply a different color scheme. So you need to go to the formatting and select advanced color setting. And you'll have different options like gradient, rule-based or conditional-based color formatting, or individual colors. So for every individual colors that you have in the chart, unique colors will be assigned. And this unique colors is going to be maintained throughout the dashboard for every values. So now let me save this, and you could see the different colors that is being assigned to the country values. So now let me drag and drop a pie chart and assign country to it. And let's configure it with a different numeric value, say order. Okay, so so since Germany has maximum total, just remove this and add something like units in all. Okay, so now if you compare both these column charts and pie chart, you could see the values will have unique colors. So there is no UK in this chart, but the other colors are unique, as you see. So this is a value-based color that we have done, and so this palette is going to be preserved for the dark theme if you are going to switch from the default light. So we have added color customization support for more elements. So previously, the color customization support is only limited to the chart elements and backgrounds for few widgets. But now we have added the support for everything like the widget background, dashboard background, and everything. And also we have added support for font sizes, manual font size changes for more elements compared to the previous versions of Bold. And we have also improved the dark theme. Previously, the dark theme was in a preview state, and you have the final version of the dark theme now. And we have also introduced the ability to add custom themes through a JSON file. So you could just configure the colors for your own custom theme for every element, including the chart color palette, dashboard backgrounds, widget backgrounds, and title colors and everything. And you could prepare your own custom theme and apply it. So this is very useful when you are going to use the dashboard in embedding. So to make the dashboard seamlessly embed with your website, you could apply a completely different theme than the standard one that is available in both by default, and and make the dashboard look like it is your part of your website rather than a Bowlby dashboard. So the next feature that I would like to show you is the ability to combine widgets using a widget container. So previously, when you add widgets to a dashboard, so we don't allow the users to overlap or overlay the widgets. So they had to go for a scrollable dashboard, or even they need to go with the smaller size widgets to accommodate more number of widgets within the same dashboard or within a fixed size dashboard. So now we have provided the support for widget container, which would be available in the miscellaneous section under the title combine widgets. So you could just drag and drop it just like a container and resize to your requirement. Now within this container, you have the option to add multiple widgets and overlap them one above the other. based upon the order that you want. Okay. You could also apply private filters for widgets in the container, and you could effectively use the uh, space available in a fixed layout, and you could also export the combined widgets together as a single entity. So now let me show you a demo. So let's go with adding a chart, and the widget container itself has its own properties. Like if you want to set an Z order for every widget, you could do that. You could set a background image or background color even with a transfer. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to again add a spline chart to this container and resize it. And again, I'm going to configure it with a order date and order quantity. So now I could even change the aggregation as month. Okay. So now I could, if I want to show the total number of orders within this time period, I could just add a number card, a simple number card as an overlay to this widget. I could drag and drop it over the widget and resize it. And for the better visibility, I'm going to remove the grid lines available in the spline chart. Okay. So now in the number card, we could just configure with the order date. Sorry, order quantity. I'll drag and drop the order quantity over here, and even I could resize it a little bit, and the font size is also customizable. To reduce the font size a bit so that the title also shows. So I could name it as total orders. Okay. So now when you view the dash, when you view this widget, it is going to look like it is a single widget. As is, you'll also have the unique export feature, or if you want to export the container itself, you'll have the option to completely export the entire container with multiple widgets in it. Okay. And the important feature is applying, the important ability here is to apply private filters for every widget. Previously, in when you create a dashboard, you may need to place filter widget anywhere in the design canvas. That might look like it is a global filter that is going to be applied for every widget. But now, when you have the container, you have the ability to apply uh, private filters as you see here. So I have placed this column chart that you see, and the uh, combo box and the date picker within a single container. So let me delete this or just move this to show the container background. I could just bring it back again to its original place. Okay. So now when you preview the dashboard and when you apply a filter, this filter is going to be applied only for this particular widget or the widget available within the container. Okay. And I could also clear this and apply a date range filter. Now you could see the filter is only applied for the widgets within the container, and other widgets in the dashboard remains unaffected. So this is the basic usage of the widget containers, and more or like you could create your own widget with the combinations of the standard widgets that we offer by default. And remember, we also have support for custom widgets in case if you are bringing in your own uh, widget that you have, you could import it using a simple tool that we have, and you could refer to our documentation for the same. And again, the custom widget can be use in combination with the container to prepare more meaningful widgets to bring your insights or key performance indicators in the dashboard. And finally, we have the ability to combine data sources. So it is one of the most requested feature from our customers. So this is often used when you use to connect with any third-party applications like Google Analytics or Zendesk or Twilio. So such kind of connections often offer only a single endpoint for getting the data. But if you have multiple accounts, for example, say Google Analytics, if you want to prepare a dashboard with Google Analytics details for all of your web pages or websites. Uh, it was not easy. It was not easy previously. Like you have to prepare the data sources individually, and then you may need to prepare the separate dashboards for each and every site, or you could bring in into the same dashboard without much interactions between them. Right now, we have introduced the ability to combine the data sources together so that it would look like a single entity in your dashboard, and you could use filters to differentiate between different accounts or different properties and prepare a single dashboard out of it. And let me show you how this is done. And more importantly, this combined data sources features is available only for extract data sources like Excel or JSON or REST APIs, or even connection to any other third-party applications using OAuth or basic HTTP authentication. We also offer column mapping support in case if you have both these data sources with different column names, uh, but the same set of data with different column names, you have the column mapping support to combine them together. And all those data sources that you have created will periodically refresh based on the refresh schedules that you have set, and it would look like a single data sources from the user endpoint. So to show that, let me go to the data sources module that I have. So okay. And in the data sources listing page, you'll see a combined data source option on the top. So you just click on the combined data sources option, and it will show you a wizard that you see here. You could just provide a name for your new data source that is going to be a union of one or more data sources. So I need to select a data source. So just for example, I will select these two data sources which are relatively the same, and you could just click on the column mapping option that you see here. So it will list down all the fields that you have in both these tables, so that if even if one of the columns has different name, you could just choose the one that is correct one and just click on apply. Okay. So once you have selected all the data sources that you have, you could just click on the append button. This is going to create a new data source out of all the different data sources that you have. So which is essentially the same schema with different data combined together. So I have combined the two data sources now, and the refresh schedule that I have set in that data sources individually will keep on uh, updating data, so that my combined data sources here will always have the latest data in it. So now, as you see here, only the selected tables that is available in the data sources are available. You cannot add new data sources here, but you'll be able to add expressions, filters, or even user-based data access and everything to the combined data source. And now you could just click on continue to dashboard and build the dashboard as a single one. So you don't have to work on the cross data source filtering and bringing in more data sources and establishing the relationship and everything. So it is just going to act as a single entity so that you could work on it. So That's the combined data source feature that we have added. And so with this, we end today's webinar session. So we are planning to add more and more features in the upcoming releases, and we are also working on a cross data source, cross platform compatibility in the upcoming release, and catch you back in another webinar with more new features and details. Thank you everyone for your time.